Hello, welcome back to Ever17 Out of Infinity. Going back to the infirmary now. After that, I decided to go to the infirmary and sleep. It wasn't that I was feeling ill. It was simply that I was not getting enough sleep. I wanted some quality rest. I slept so deeply that I didn't even dream. When I awoke, it was already around evening. There was a memo by the bed. We will be in the conference room until dinner. If you wake up by then, please come along. I'm sorry for making you hang out with me the last couple days. Please make sure that you get enough rest. You. Judging from the signature, it seemed that you had left it. I got out of bed, stretched, and left the room. I started walking in the direction opposite of the conference room. I decided to take a walk around the complex for fun. I got into EI. I thought that it might make for a good change of pace to walk around on a floor I hadn't spent much time on. That was my thinking. Yeah. I got off on the flooded third floor. I wondered where I should go. I looked around thinking. It was then that it happened. I saw the girl again. It's probably not going to be very easy to walk around if it's flooded. Oh, I saw her small figure cutting across the corridor. I was sure of it. It was that girl. I chased after her. Her skirt shook back and forth as she walked further and further away. It was almost as if she were trying to get away from me. Hey, wait a minute! She may not have heard me, and she didn't show any sign of stopping. I wondered what it was all about. This girl that kept appearing out of nowhere and then disappearing. This girl that didn't register on Lenny's bioscan. No, she had registered once. Life reading 7. But the more I thought about it, the stranger everything seemed. She only appeared in front of me, and we hardly communicated. Well, I couldn't worry about it. I knew it wouldn't help. It was something that I could only solve by asking her directly. She headed into the cosmic whale room. I followed in soon after her. The room was dimly lit. A massive whale floated like a majestic phantasm in the cosmic room. The girl was in the middle of the room. She was facing away from me, sitting and hugging her knees. I finally caught up. I approached her as I caught my breath. I heard singing. It sounded like phrases from a children's song. I felt like I had heard the lyrics somewhere before. Somewhere, I was sure. In the distant, distant past. I wondered if it was my missing memory that was making me feel that way. Hey, you! Her shoulders jumped with shock and she stopped singing. Slowly, she turned back to look at me. It was the girl after all. Why do you run away from me? Why am I the only one that can see you, too? What is going on? Oh, well, I guess it doesn't matter. It really did matter to me, but since I had finally been able to confront the girl, I felt a surge of relief. Well, why don't we go where everyone else is? I held up my hand as I said this. Finally, she stood up and spoke. What? The girl just stared at my face. Let's go. I took her hand and tugged it as I began to walk. The inside of my mind was churning. It was because of what she had just said. Inside of me, it felt like another me was screaming. That was how I felt. I found another girl! I burst into the conference room as I shouted this. Of course, I was still leading the girl by the hand. Everyone turned to look at me at once.
もう一人って？
誰のこと言ってんだ？
もしかしてその女の子のことですか？
Yeah, I found her in the cosmic whale room and brought her here. Can anyone else see her? Well, what's the matter with everyone? Why are you surprised?
もうしばらく休んでいた方がいい
Oh no. What?
ねえね
The girl was tugging at my sleeve. I turned to look at her. But the girl that I had brought back was
えいきなりこんなとこ連れてきてどうしたの
Sarah.
うん
I looked back at everyone. This isn't right, I swear, I saw her. We were walking here hand in hand. It wasn't Sarah.
そうなんですか松永さん私は誰も見なかったよいきなり少年が私の手を掴んで
What? Sarah, why are you lying?
はい嘘ついてるのはそっちじゃん何言っちゃってるわけ
What? The girl was in the whale room. She was sitting down hugging her knees. She was singing some kind of phrases to a kid's
だ
song.
からそれは私です
Sarah was red-faced and shouting, that was you.
そんな恥ずかしいことここで暴露しなくてもいいでしょ
Jeez, what's with her? What's going on here? You groaned as she slapped her forehead with her hands.
そうね他のことは何も心配しなくていいからもう少し休んできたら晩ご飯だったら後で持ってってあげるから本当にどうしちゃったのかねこの子は
I thought about a lot of things as I plodded to the infirmary. Things leading to that point. Things to come. The odd things going on. Things I couldn't figure out. Things I needed to find out. Things I needed to decide. Everything I had been trying to avoid thinking about all rushed into my mind at once, making it a confused mess. I couldn't help thinking and worrying about things. About you. What if the man who had died 34 years before wasn't Yu's father? Then who was her real father? Was the woman that died 15 years before really Yu's mother? If not, then who was? About me. Why did I keep having premonitions of the future? What did it mean? Who was that girl? Why had I mistaken Sarah for her? Why had I even lost my memory in the first place? What had happened to me in my past? What did Tsugumi know about all of this? And why were we all trapped in Wimu? Was it just an accident? Or something else? A few hours later, the installation started to flood again. Dritstock from the partition to the cosmic whale was submerged. Casualties, none. Flooding to other rooms, none. Chance of damage spreading, none. Sora's voice conveyed the situation over the intercom in a matter-of-fact tone. Is that one word? The cosmic whale room. I had been there until just shortly before the flooding. But somehow it felt like some event that had taken place thousands of miles away. I covered my head with the blanket, closed my eyes, and tried to sleep. I tried to search for the world I should be in. For the place I should return to. And for myself. The next thing I knew, I was standing there. The corridor I was in wasn't very popular. It was completely silent. It was narrow, dark, cold. Where is this? I wondered if I really was in Wimu. Nothing looked familiar. It was like an unknown world. I just stood there in the middle of the foreign corridor. Wait. I knew that space. For some reason, it seemed familiar to me. Like an image that appears and hides in the mist, not quite visible, or like the moon peeking in between gaps in a thick night fog. It was a corridor that stretched on a straight forward. It seemed to go on forever in both directions. I started walking without really thinking about it. I've been here before, but when could that have been? It felt like something long ago, but at the same time, like something recent. I couldn't remember when. I just kept walking to nowhere in particular. I have to go. But where was it that I felt I had to go? I didn't know why, but I felt that I had to go. That's why I'm walking. In a soundless world. A colorless world. A scentless world. A world that didn't exist anywhere. And then the scenery suddenly changed. I found myself in a big room. It was big and white and quiet. This looks like a hospital. That was what I thought. In a corner of the room were 3 capsule-like machines. As if they were calling out to me, I approached the capsules. Someone was in the capsules. Someone was in there sleeping. I reached out my right hand toward the capsule. My hand made contact. In that instant, without a sound, the lights went off. Huh? Startled, I tried to jump backward. But my right hand was stuck to the capsule and I couldn't pull it back. I looked back at the capsule. From the point where my hand was touching the capsule's lid, a blackish, sticky liquid began seeping out. No, it was more dark blue than black. The capsule continued to ooze, blackish blue and deep blue. I didn't know and couldn't imagine what was going on. That's right, someone's inside. I have to open this and save them. But my body wouldn't move. It felt paralyzed. I stopped breathing and could only watch what was unfolding. Finally, that sticky blue liquid covered the entire capsule. But it didn't stop there. It kept going. Through the floor, the walls, the ceiling, as if it would swallow the whole room. It was like a living animal with a will of its own, reproducing itself. The sticky blue liquid began to crawl up my body, up my legs and my hands, inside my clothes and between my legs. I couldn't shake it off or scream. I could only watch. After covering my body, it forced open my mouth and started into my body. It invaded me through my ears, nose, and the pores of my skin. In my body, the blue traveled around, reaching my brain, my lungs, and my heart. It began eating away at my brain, my organs, and blood vessels. This blue liquid sucked my blood and started changing its color to black. It was changing into something that wasn't me. Assaulted by boundless fear and horrible despair, I howled a soundless scream. My eyes snapped open. I hope that was just a nightmare. The next thing I knew, I was on a bed. It smelled of disinfectant. I wondered where I was. I was drenched in sweat. My heart was pounding. I had a dull headache. I lifted up my torso and glanced around me. The room was dim, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was scenery that I knew. Oh yeah, I'm back in the infirmary. I finally realized that I had just been having a dream. I got my breath back and thought back to the dream. Oh, let's see. What had seemed so vivid only moments ago seemed to vanish from my mind like clouds covering the night sky. All that was left was an unknown fear, a slight headache, and a fragment of a dream. I gave up and looked around me. The area was enveloped in a faint darkness. It wasn't a blackout. The lights had been dimmed to make it easier to sleep. The proof seemed to be the sleeping breathing that I could hear coming from the bed next to me. I thought it might be Sarah. Now wide awake, I got out of bed. I suddenly noticed something. There was someone laying face down next to my bed asleep. I squinted to see who it might be. It was you. I thought that she was going to be sore for sure after sleeping in that position. To at least keep her from catching a cold, I went to cover her with a blanket. Just then... Oh, did I wake you up? You shouted as she stood up. I feel perfectly fine. It's not your fault. Saying that, you shrugged her shoulders. I'm done with the bed, so you can sleep here, you. I slept enough this afternoon. I'm not tired.
そう。
You thought for a minute.
だったら今夜も付き合わない？
Sure. So we decided to hang out again that night in what seemed to be becoming a brutal... Was it brutal, right? Nightly ritual now. Okay, I got that totally wrong. There were in rooms. We climbed on top of the roof of one of the buildings and gazed out over the scenery. I actually didn't know why we had decided to climb up on that particular night, but if I were to take a stab at the reason, it was probably because Lemuria was so beautiful then. For a while, the two of us were silent, just enjoying the view. Finally, I started the conversation. Let's get to the bottom of things.
決着って？
Let's get to the truth about your past. About your father and mother. That and the truth about my past. About my lost memories and my ability to see the future. That and one more thing, the truth about all of our pasts, and why this accident happened. Why were we the only ones trapped here? Why couldn't we get out? I'm tired of dwelling on this. I mean it. Let's really figure things out tonight.
あのさ、少年。
You stared into the distance. Huh?
悪いんだけど、そういった話は今日はやめよう。
Huh? Why?
なんだか疲れちゃった。だから今日はそういうつもりでここへ誘ったんじゃないの。
I wondered why we had come here.
どうして人は過去にこだわったりするんだろう。過ぎてしまったことなんて取り返すことはできないのに、私たちはただ目の前を通り過ぎていく瞬間瞬間の中でしか生きることはできない。過去にも未来にも飛んでいくことはできない。未来は
Yeah.
確かにやってくるけれど、その瞬間が訪れるまで未来はただの暗闇、何も見えない。1分後何が起こるのかさえわからない。未来が怖くて、だから人は振り返る。振り返って過去を見ると、そこには光が照らされている。でもね、過去だって同じこと。遠のけば遠のくほど闇の中に紛れて見えなくなってしまう。
To me, it seemed to lose your memory. Like I had made everything pitch black. Okay. No, rather things become nothing.
私たちが知ることのできる領域なんてほんの些細なものなのよ。特に時の流れに対しては盲目に等しい。だから私は今この瞬間だけを大切にしようと思う。過去や未来のことなんてもうどうでもよくなっちゃったんだ。
I was left speechless. There was nothing I could be expected to say. Because she was no longer focused on reflecting on her past, she was different from me. I alone was intent on knowing everything. I believed that I had to know it or else. But you wasn't like that. The dragon had left the damsel free. There was no longer any need to get vanquished. To vanquish it. I didn't know how much time had passed. There being nothing for us to do. There was nothing for us to do, so we just gave ourselves to the slowly passing time, even though there was no meaning in it. I didn't feel that there was any reason for being there. I've had enough of this. I stood up quickly. So, should we get some sleep? What? What's wrong?
もうちょっとだけ一緒にいたいかも。
Huh? But there's nothing for us to do, is there? That was what I was about to say, but you said.
君と一緒にいるとなんだか落ち着くの。だから
I sat down again where I was. Yeah, it kind of is. I figured that even if it was nothing to me, it might mean everything to her.
私
Yeah.
は今何考えてるかわかる？
I shook my head.
当ててみて。
How am I supposed to know?
タイムスリップしたんでしょ？同じ出来事を経験したことがあるんでしょ？だったらこれから私が何をするのか知ってるはずじゃない。
You don't believe in time travel, right?
それとこれとは話が別。当ててみて。
You repeated herself. What you're going to do?
多分。
What you're going to do?
だから当ててみてって言ってるでしょ？わからないの？
I don't know.
そういう時はどうすればいいんだっけ？
What?
もう一つの目を使うのよ。
My other eye? The third eye?
そう。第三の目が開眼すると真の知恵が湧き、万物を見通すことができる。
But how?
教えてほしい？
Yeah. It was something I had hoped for. If I could harness that power, then my past memory.
一つ目の目はどこにあるのか知ってる？
I cocked my head, thinking.
ここよ。
As she spoke, Yu's index finger approached my right eye. I closed it. The tip of Yu's finger touched my eyelid.
じゃあ二つ目の目はここ。
Without giving me a second to think, Yu did the same thing to my left eye.
最後に第三の目。それはここに。
I felt something soft touch my lips. Startled, I opened my eyes. My mind went completely blank. I couldn't think of anything. The third eye... Had I found true wisdom? Had all things become visible to me? It was a lie. I felt more and more confused. I only... The scene in front of me, the soft touch of skin, and the sweet smell that made my brain numb, it was all I could do to absorb this. That so-called third eye gave only the truth, warm confusion, but... confusion and affection then. The night passed... Wait, that night passed as I etched the memory into my... Yeah, okay. As I etched pure soul and new memories into my mind. Okay, the next morning. After breakfast, we all gathered in the conference room. More accurately, we gathered because Sora had called us together. Tsugumi also made a rare appearance. Oh, that was cute.
一刻も早くお知らせしなければならないことがあったのです。辛いでしょうが、現在の状況を正しく把握する必要があります。取り乱さず、落ち着いて、心して聞いてください。
Sora paused for a second. Sora looked at all five of us in turn, Yu, Tsugumi, Sarah, Takeshi, and then me, before continuing. The conference room was silent. But I could hear the sound of water faintly from somewhere. Was it water lapping in the corridors? Moments later, I couldn't hear it anymore. As if Sora was waiting for this cue, she slowly opened her mouth. Sora extended her hand and a holographic window appeared in the space in front of us. I felt like I hadn't seen her do that for a while.
今のところ新たな浸水の兆候がはっきり現れている箇所はありません。昨夜のドリッドシュトックのコスミッシャーバル浸水以来、際立った被害は出ていませんが、その浸水によってレミューを支える支柱への負担は増大しました。 フロア間の歪みが大きくなりつつあります。このまま行くとレミューはやがて平行バランスを崩し大きく傾くことになるでしょう。フロア区画の連結部への損傷が重なれば健在な区画にも各種パイプなどを通して水が侵入してくる可能性があります。つまり油断のならない状況となっています。以前お伝えしたと思いますが、レミューの完全悪化推定時刻は5月7日午前4時30分前後となっています。推定誤差はプラスマイナス12時間程度です。この推定数値には今のところ大きな変更はかかっていません。核兵器強度は一部においてすでに限界を超えつつあるのです。崩壊は段階的に少しずつ、しかし確実に起こります。それはもう時間の問題です。
Sora told all of us this with a calm look on her face. We all swallowed and held our breath as we listened. We knew we were reaching our time limit. We had no choice but to accept that reality. There was no avoiding the situation.
現在発電施設は順調に稼働しています。ですが万が一発電機が停止してしまった場合は非常電源、蓄電池を使用します。通常は非常灯の点灯とシステムの保持に使われている程度のものですが、2時間くらいは持つものと思います。
Sora's matter-of-fact way of speaking only raised attention in our minds for Takeshi and Sarah and Tsugumi, and for you. I could not get the image of you burned in my brain the night before in my mind. I still felt as if our lips were touching. From the morning, you and I had avoided one another's eyes. I wasn't sure if we had even exchanged words. You looked straight ahead. I was more conscious of you than of anything else. I didn't know how I should act around her from then on. But I had other things to worry about. I listened to the conversation.
旧来の通信回路については依然不通。脱出方法も見つかっていません。ですが館内レムシステムは全力を挙げて皆さんの生命維持を最優先事項とし、そのための環境保全に努めます。また館外で操作可能なセンサー、ライト、マニピュレーターなどを総動員し、それらを使っての光波、電波、音波による通信の送受信の可能性を改めて検証中です。
Sora nodded her head, straightened her back, and surveyed the room. We were all silent. There was a look of determination in her eyes.
これは意地です。私、茜ヶ崎空の意地。できることはわずかですが、皆さんがここにいられる限り、皆さんがここから無事脱出するためのあらゆる手段、方法を私は考え、試したいと思っています。あとしばらくの間、よろしくお付き合いのほどお願いいたします。
She concluded with a serious nod. We all nodded.
助けは必ず来ます。信じて待ちましょう。
Sora's serious expression gave way to a smile.
皆さんが無事救出されることをお祈りします。
The gloomy atmosphere that had been hanging over the gathering lightened, and everyone started thinking about how they should spend their time. Sora's smile instilled everyone with courage. I was grateful for that piece of code in Sora's AI program, the function that allowed her to be calm in times of trouble.
それでは一旦は解散としましょう。何か事実がつかめるまで各自自由に行動してください。ただし何かを発見した場合は即座にレミを通じて私に知らせるということで。ソラ、ちょっといい？あ、はい。小町さん、何でしょうか？
Shigumi suddenly stood in front of Sora. Her smile seemed just a little forced.
話がある。二人で話したいんだけど。二人きりでですか？ええ、お願い。実は脱出についてあなたに一つ提案があるのよ。え、本当ですか？何かいい方法が？そうよ。あなたの知らない私だけが知っている方法。聞いたところによれば、あなた自立行動のプライオリティを入れ替えてもらったそうね。さらにレミにライプリヒに対する守秘義務意識は以前ほど強固なものではない。はい、それが何か？
今のあなたなら私に協力できるかもしれない。
おい、ちょっと待てよ、つぐみ。空も。
あなたは黙ってて。
Tsugumi held up her hand as if silencing Takeshi.
私は空と二人だけで話したいの。構わないでしょ。
はい、わかりました。では中央制御室で。
そうね。行きましょうか。
With serious looks on their faces, the two of them headed out of their
おい、
room.
待てよ、二人とも。勝手なことすんな。そんな大事な話ならむしろここで。
Tsugumi glared back at Takeshi. Her eyes were like ice.
黙っててって言ったでしょ。
Oh. Okay, just go. She turned her back on Takeshi again, and the two of them left the conference room. The room suddenly fell silent.
なんだよ。なんだってんだよ。
If she has something to talk about with her, just let her do it. Those of us left stared at the hologram in the conference room and settled down to plotting a strategy to save ourselves. The four of us, you, Sarah, Takeshi, and I, gathered around the table. We reviewed the facts as we knew them. There were two ways to get to the surface from Limu. One, use the elevator in the central area. Two, climb one of the complex's 12 sets of emergency stairs. The central area floor was completely flooded. Even if we could get to the elevator, we couldn't be certain that it would move. We still didn't know the cause of that either. The emergency stairs were also filled with water from the second floor, so they were impassable. Right now, there was only one method that could be used to remove the floodwater. That was to use the high-pressure fan to pump the complex full of high-pressure gases and purge it out of seawater. But at that moment, we weren't able to operate the fan from inside Limu. And like the elevators, we still had no idea why. If we couldn't start it from the inside, then it could be started from the outside, but all communication channels to the outside had been cut off, and slimming our rate of freedom was out of the question. The water pressure and other problems made that suicidal. And if we couldn't find a way out on our own, then we'd have to rely on rescue efforts from outside, but that was something we couldn't depend on. We hadn't been able to communicate with the outside for the 5 days since we'd been trapped, and there were no signs help was coming. So we knew that we had to exclude a miracle rescue from our options. No, from the beginning. We had reconciled ourselves with the facts of our situation long before. We figured that since there had been no contact or rescue, not even the slightest sign, that maybe there was a reason that people couldn't get near Limu, or maybe someone had intentionally sealed us in. So we came up with 3 steps we should focus on. A. Restoring communications with the outside. But this was only relevant if the people on the outside were willing to cooperate. B. Find another way to drain the water from the complex other than the high-pressure fan. But according to Sora, there was no other way to do this. C. Find an escape route other than the elevator or emergency stairs, like maybe a submarine. But according to Sora's information, there were no longer any left at Limu. She had said that they all had been used during the evacuation on May 1st. Final conclusion. Current prognosis for escape, hopeless. But there was one thing. Tsugumi had said that there was an escape method that only she knew about, if it did in fact exist, and there was a way that all 6 of us could escape. Then that would be our only hope.
結局のところ、俺たちには打つ手なしってことか。
つぐみと空の報告を待つしかないね。
I wonder if we really had traveled into the future or something.
つぐみのやつ遅えな。
いくらなんでも遅すぎるよね。何かあったんでしょうかね。
Hey, should I go see how things are going?
そうだな。よろしく頼む。
一人で大丈夫？
Yeah, fine. I'll just go take a peek. With that, I left the conference room. I headed down the corridor to the control room. With the situation the way it was, no matter how much we worried about it, we weren't going to find a solution. That was clear. So we would have to take control of the situation. But how could we do that? We couldn't just rely on thinking. We needed to act. The key to the first step down that path was in the hands of Tsugumi and Sora. That was what I believed. I arrived in front of the control room. I pushed the intercom buzzer, but there was no answer. My only choice was to open the door. When I did, I heard Tsugumi shouting.
何遍も同じことを言わせないで。
Tsugumi and Sora were in the middle of an argument so intense that it seemed they might start going at it hand to hand. Neither one would give an inch, they just glared at one another. It looked as though they had been fighting for several minutes. The room was filled with tension. The two glanced at me for only an instant before launching back into their argument.
ですから先ほどから申し上げている通り、そのような場所など存在しないのです。ねえ、ソラ、お願いだから、これ以上私を怒らせないで。他の連中は騙せても私に嘘は通じないの。嘘ではありません。まだ勇気。
It was a bad scene. Something about the whole thing screamed danger. It wouldn't do to let the two go at it like that. I retraced my steps, hurrying to the conference room. Everyone, we've got trouble. Without waiting for the door to completely open, I bounded into the room.
早かったな。ただごとじゃないみたいだな。
大変ってどういうこと？
Come on, we've got to go and stop it. I told them this as I struggled to get my breath back.
止める？おい、ちゃんと説明してくれ。
何があったの？
The central control room. Sora and Tsugumi. I found them fighting. I just couldn't watch, so I...
暑いね。こんな時に。行こう。止めようよ。
ああ、早いとこ行くぞ。
We burst into the room. The room was full of sharp words and barbed looks. The atmosphere was tense. It left a bad taste in my mouth. Nothing had changed at all. It might be safer to say that things had gotten worse.
ドリットストップの下にフロアはありません。降りることはできないんです。嘘。あなたが嘘をついてる。私には分かってる。私は知っているの。
Floors below Dritz.
下の階がある。
Another floor.
レミュートは別の施設。それがこの真下にあるの。ずーっと下の方に。ね、そうでしょ。その問いにはこうお答えするしかありません。そんな施設など存在しませんと。そんなはずはないでしょ。じゃああの部屋は何？あのヒンメルは一体何なのよ。
Himmel? I thought I had heard. No, I had seen it before. The name of a room? Where have I seen it? But my memory was vague and I couldn't connect it with any information in my
いい
brain.
あなたは知らないだろうけど、あの扉は今日。
おい、つぐみ。
Suddenly, Takeshi got between them.
つぐみ。その話、俺にも聞かせてもらおうか。
Yeah, Himmel.
ここまで聞いちまったんだ。もう隠し事も何もないだろう。
We could try to do that. Takeshi stared intently at Tsugumi. Takeshi turned back to us.
なあ、悪いんだけど、ここは俺に任せてくれないか。
Huh?
何それ？私たちは出て行けってこと？
ああ、大人数であれこれ言い合っても収拾がつかなくなるだけだろ。だからここは俺と空とつぐみに任せてくれ。しばらく3人だけにしてくれ。
Alright, let's leave this to Takeshi.
少年？なんでそんな重要な話し合いで私たちだけがのけ者にならなきゃいけないわけ？
I trust Takeshi. And Takeshi has trust in us. Takeshi has his own take on things. And I think we should go with what he thinks.
サンキュー少年。すまんな。
しょうがないな。じゃあグラナリー、あんたに任せるからね。
ああ、わかった。
We left the three of them in the control room. After that, we decided to take some action of our own. The estimated time until Lima's implosion was steadily approaching. We decided to run a visual check of the complex to see how everything was. Of course, Lemmy had already checked everything, so it was a meaningless action, but we felt that we had to do something. I took the corridor near the whale room. Rather, near what used to be the whale room. The cosmic whale room was already filled with water. I wondered what the girl I had seen around here was. Where had she gone? Who was the girl singing that lonely children's song? Was she a ghost or something else? Just as I was thinking that. Suddenly I was hit with a bout of dizziness. My vision contorted and I couldn't stand. I leaned against a wall and slowly crouched on the floor. I was unable to focus my mind. I felt cold. My joints were throbbing. Oh, ow! My stomach felt like it was contracting in on itself. I couldn't stand it and sprinted into the bathroom. I threw up everything in my stomach. It was a stew of half-digested chunks of chicken sandwich. I looked at it indifferently and put my hand on my forehead. I wasn't feverish, but I felt terrible. I took the EI elevator up to the second floor. I headed toward the infirmary intending to get some medicine. Along the way, I saw Takeshi. Takeshi was leaning against a wall, muttering. He was probably just talking to himself, but I heard what he was saying.
ったく、何にも起きねえじゃねえか。出任せ言いやがって、あの女。もう時間がねえってのによ。
Lying woman? He seemed to be in a bad mood. Hey there, Takeshi.
あ? おう、少年か。なんじゃい。
How was the talk with Tsugumi and Sora?
ああ、あれな。ダメダメ。全然話になんねえ。
What do you mean?
つぐみの勘違いだったんだよ。単なるあいつの思い込みだったんだ。
So the escape route.
ああ、もちろん白紙に戻ったってわけだ。
Oh, I see. I had held out hope that he could pull us through. It was a bitter
ほんとそう
disappointment.
だ。こうしてらんねえよ。俺もう行くわ。今忙しいんだよ。じゃあな。
Looking stiff, Takeshi headed off. I was left alone. Sarah and Sora were in the infirmary. It seemed the two of them were having a complicated discussion.
じゃあここのネットワークを通じてライプリヒ本社のデータベースにも侵入できるんだね。
ええ、理論上は可能です。しかし本社のデータベースはこことは比較にならないぐらいプロテクトは強固です。並大抵のことでは侵入どころか逆ハックされてしまうことでしょう。それに現在外部との通信は普通状態ですし。
でもケーブルが断線してるわけじゃないんだよね。
はい。
だったら受信はできなくても送信はできてるかもしれないわけだ。
その可能性はあります。
そっか。だとしたら。ってあれ？少年、いつの間に入ってきたの？
I've been here for a bit.
あ、そうなの。全然気づかなかった。
どうかなさったのですか？あまり顔色が優れないようですが。
Yeah, that escape route that Tsugumi was talking about, so she turned out to be wrong.
はい、どうやらそのようです。
I see. Really?
そんなに落ち込まないでください。まだ望みを捨ててはいけません。朝に申し上げたように、私もレミも最後まで全力で皆さんのために尽くしますから。
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
ところで少年は何の用でここに？
Oh yeah, I came to get some medicine or some vitamin supplements.
少年も具合悪いとか？
Huh? You too, Sarah?
皆さん、かなりお疲れのようですね。無理もないことですけど。
ナッキュ先輩もさっき来たんだよ。やっぱストレスかな？それとも睡眠不足？食事はタツタサンドだけだし。ああ、やだやだ。どれも肌の大敵ね。
As she complained, Sarah took a jar filled with tablets from the medicine shelf.
どうぞ。
So I guess you took the same ones. I drank down the tablets that Sarah gave me. Where did you go?
更衣室。
Oh, why? She's going to change.
うん、よくわかんないけどね。
At that point, Tsugumi came into the room. Both Sarah and Sora expressions tensed. You too, Tsugumi? It's weird, but everyone seems to be feeling ill today, so I thought you might be feeling bad too.
私は違うわ。私はただ様子を見に来ただけ。妙といえば彼頭おかしくなったんじゃないの？
That guy?
もしかしてたけしのこと？
Tsugumi nodded.
かなり挙動不審だったわよ。目を血走らせながら避難用通路に入っていったけど、なんだか鼻息も荒かったわね。
Huh? He seemed in a bad mood, but was he that out of
そう
it?
だったけど、頭をやられちゃったのかもね。
鼻息が荒い？まさかとは思うけど。
Now I'm really starting to feel I can't trust someone here.
クラナルさんでしたら、ちょっと待ってくださいね。今ちょうど更衣室の上の通路に。
ねえ、ちょっと様子見に行った方がよくない？
I think you're right. Sarah and I hurried out of the room.
あ、皆さん、更衣室の中には。
The two of us sprinted to the changing room. We arrived in front of it. There we heard Yu gave an ear-splitting scream. I didn't believe it. It couldn't be. That Takeshi! The door was shut. We thought it might be locked from the inside. I knew it wouldn't work, but I was going to try to kick open the door, but Sarah stopped me. Sarah went to work on the 10 key next to the door. It seemed that she had a code for emergencies like this. The door opened up. I immediately burst into the room. Hey, Takeshi! Yu was alone in the room. She had already finished changing. What?
いきなし入ってくんな、このアホンダラ！
The magazine Yu had thrown at me hit me full on in the face. I felt a piercing pain in my nose.
先輩、
Okay.
無事ですか？何のこと？だってたけしがクラナリがどうしたって？
Takeshi wasn't anywhere in the room. Come to mention it, there were no emergency exits in the room at all. There was no way for him to enter in from an emergency corridor. What about that scream just a minute ago? What was that? I rubbed my nose as I said this.
ああ、あれ。
You took the collar of her jacket and showed it to us.
ほら見てよ、あのコーヒーの汚れ、染みついちゃったの。
There seemed to be a little black stain.
それだけ？
You screamed because of that.
そうだよ。だってこの服お気に入りだったんだもん。
You don't just freak out like that, and if you're done changing, why do you throw that at me?
何言ってんの？女の子が着替えてるかもしれない部屋に無断で入る方が悪いんだよ。
I looked again at the magazine you had thrown at me. On the cover of the magazine was a glossy picture of a screw and a screwdriver. It was a copy of Monthly Toolbox magazine. What is something like this doing in the girls' changing room? Something red dripped on the floor. I had a nosebleed.
やだ、何鼻血なんて出してんのよ。君って正真正銘の新生純情少年くんなんだね。
What is that supposed to mean? It's because you threw this magazine at me. I wiped my nose with tissues handed to me by Sarah as I fumbled for an explanation.
まさかそのネジを見て。
Whatever. That's not it.
はあ、それにしても心配して損した。まあいいや。
With that, Sarah left the room. What? Are you leaving?
私用事あるからさ。
Thanks.
いろいろとね。先 算しとかなきゃいけないことが残ってる。
I thought that I detected a gleam of determination in Sarah's eyes.
あとよろしく。
Sarah waved to me as she left, but an instant later she had poked her face back in the room.
あ、そうそう、お二人とも。ごゆっくり。
This time she didn't come back. You and I sat on the bench in the changing room, facing opposite directions. Finally, the two of us were alone. It was a situation I had been trying to avoid. I fidgeted as I thought of the touch of her lips the day before. I wondered why we had stayed here. It was because you didn't try to go anywhere. With what Sarah had said, I couldn't just say see you and leave. If I did that, she'd be able to tell that I was still hung up on the day before. I tried not to think about it. But the more I tried not to think about it, the more I did. There was a part of me that knew all of this and pretended I wasn't thinking about it and acted like I was actually thinking about it, but then doing that actually made me think about it. So I tried to pretend not to think about it, and as I was pretending to think about it, then I realized that it was all meaningless. The more I thought about it, the more confused I got. I had to keep thinking about not thinking about it. And I sat down next to you and stared at the ceiling. No, that means I'm thinking about it though. Yeah, oh, that's right. This silence is bad. I better break it somehow. I thought I would try to say something and calm myself down. Those clothes really suit you.
Huh?
No, I mean, why did you change? Unfortunately, my mind was still in a state of confusion and wouldn't follow orders.
そうね。いわゆる一つの決意表明かな。
Huh?
着替えた理由。聞いたのは君でしょ。
Oh, yeah.
デミューのユニフォームを脱ぎ捨てて、私の日常に即した服を身につける。デミューでの私、さよならって意味と、日常の私、こんにちはって意味を込めて、私は何が何でもここを脱出して普段の生活に戻るの。そういう決意表明。
So that's why. At that rate, I figured the conversation was sure to fizzle out. I needed something to talk about. Third eye will marry I use past. Third eye. Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to ask you about the third eye.
第三視点？
Yeah.
最後に、第三の目。それはここに。
Suddenly, I remembered and vividly relived the feeling of our lips touching the night before. I was sorely regretting that I had brought up this topic.
そういえばさ、
Hey, yeah.
第三視点って概念の本当の意味教えてなかったよね。
No. You always say, I'll tell you next time.
そうだったね。よし、いい機会だからお姉さんが手取り足取り教えてあげよう。
Really? Well, you can skip the boring stuff. You stood up and turned to face me.
では、ナッキュ先生の第三視点講座を始めるとします。
I clapped for her half-heartedly.
当たり前の話だけど、人間は2つの視点を持ってるよね。1つは右目、もう1つは左目。
You winked with one eye and then the other.
この2つの視点によって人間は立体を認識することができるの。もしも仮に 片方の視力を失ってしまったとしたら、不可能とまでは言い切れないけど、立体を認識することは極めて困難になる。ちょっと片目をつぶってみて。
Okay, I closed my right eye as she said.
そうして見える世界は基本的には平面としての情報だけによって構成されてるでしょ。もちろん
Yeah.
焦点、ピントを合わせたり眼球を動かしたりすることによって物体の立体感を把握することができないわけじゃないけど、でも両目を使ってる時に比べれば立体としての認識度っていうのかな、そういうのは著しく低下してるはず。
Hmm.
言ってることわかる？
Ah.
じゃあ余分なことは抜きにして言うけど、つまりこういうこと。人間が片方の目だけから入手できる情報は平面二次元としての情報だけなのである。要するに写真と同じなのよ。一枚の風景写真を見たとき、手前に林があって奥に湖があって、そのまたずっと向こうに山脈があってというような遠近感を確かに知覚することはできる。でもその写真はあくまでも二次元じゃない？平面上に現像しただけだよね。というわけで写真というのは3次元の映像を二次元的に再現したものだってことが分かってもらえたと思うんだけど。
Oh. Hmm.
まだわからない？
I don't get it, and my left eye is tired.
しょうがないな。じゃあ今度は左目を閉じて。ほ
Oh.
ら、両目つぶってどうするの？
I held the eyelid of my left eye shut with my left hand as I opened my right eye. Okay.
そしたらちょっと軽く実験でもしてみようか。
What? Experiment? Nodding, Yule took a marker out of her pocket. She took the cap off and handed the marker to me. So, what do I do?
私が持ってるこのキャップにサインペンをはめてみて。
You turned the cap sideways and held it in front of me. So you want me to put the tip of this in that hole of yours?
早く入れて。
You want me to put it in?
うん。
I took the shiny black. Wait, didn't she just say to cover my eye with my other hand? What? No. I took the shiny black pen, lifted it toward the little cap that you held, trying to put it in. Let me see. Okay, close right eye. Held the eyelid of my left eye shut with my left hand as I opened my right eye. Okay, his picture has his left hand out here. Huh. It's weird, I can't find the hole. So, yeah, I guess he takes the pen with his left hand after... after he closes his eye, I don't know. I can't find the hole. The slightly slippery tip wouldn't slip into the hole. I tried again and again, but it wouldn't go where you wanted it to go. It should be easier than this.
もうだらしないな。
Well, what do you expect me to do? It's my first time doing this. Oh, okay. So sorry. Oh.
どこに刺してんのよ。そこじゃないでしょ。もうちょっと手前。
Here?
違う違う。もっと奥。そこに入れて。早く。
I got it, finally, it's in!
すごいすごい。こんなの初めて。
Yay. Hmm.
で、あるからして。一つの視点だけでは立体を認識することがいかに難しいことなのかご理解いただけたと思うのですが、
So...
まとめるとこういうこと。一つの視点から得られる情報は平面二次元的な情報だけ。立体三次元的な情報を獲得するためにはその視点が最低でも2つ以上は必要なの。つまり 右目と左目、この2つの視点を使わない限り、私たちは瞬間的に3次元を認識することはできないのよ。まだわからないかな。
I see what you're saying, but what does this have to do with the third eye?
どんな関係も何もないって。もうほとんど説明し尽くしちゃってるんだから。だったら逆にこっちから質問するけど、一つの視点から得られる情報は？
You said two-dimensional information, right?
次に二つの視点から得られる情報は？
I think you said three-dimensional information.
では三つの視点から得られる情報は？
Four-dimensional information, maybe? Huh, the fourth dimension. You nodded slowly, listening to me. So the fourth dimension was... Wait, what was a dimension anyway? You took a notebook out of her locker and started illustrating her points with diagrams using the familiar pen. Zero dimension, a world made of points. With zero dimensions, there is no mass nor area. It is depicted using coordinates. Or we might call it nothingness, or even zero. One dimension. This is an extension of the point. It is a straight line. In other words, a cross-section of a straight line is a point. One way of indicating this is through length. Two dimension. This is an extension of the straight line. This is a flat world. In other words, a cross-section of a plane or flat world is a straight line. This is indicated using two concepts, length and width. Three dimension. This is an extension of the flat world. It is a three-dimensional world. In other words, a cross-section of the solid world is a plane or flat surface. This is depicted using three concepts, length, width, and height. This isn't the most precise way of putting it, but you can think of three-dimension as an area in space composed of length, width, and height. By depicting length, width, and height, where x, y, and z axis, one axis adds a vertical element to the other two. And the fourth dimension adds a t-axis, or time, to these three, because four dimensions is no longer just space, it is called space-time. One of the x, y, z, and t-axis adds a vertical element crossing perpendicular to the other three. Four dimension. This is an extension of three dimensions, a world of space and time. In other words, a cross-section of space-time is three-dimensional. Four dimensions are depicted using four concepts, length, width, height, and time. So basically, if you are able to gain a third eye, then you have enough information to experience four dimensions.
空間プラス時間。
What?
私たちが2つの眼球を使って目の前の広がった空間の映像を一瞬にして理解できるように。
So with three perspectives, we can also be aware of the cross-cutting element of time.
そういうことである。
Ooh, you put the cap on the pen. I feel like I kinda understand.
何が？
My premonitions. I didn't travel through time.
第三視点を獲得した後はだから未来のことがわかるんとはなんてバカバカしいこと言い出さないよね。
You don't think so?
ダメ。だって全然説得力ないもん。どうして少年はいきなり第三視点を開眼することになったの？その理由は？方法は？
I'll bet if I get my memory back, then
ま
I'll...
たすぐそうやって記憶喪失のせいにするっていうかさ、そもそもその記憶喪失の原因を探ってるんじゃなかったの？記憶喪失と第三視点とにどんな関係があるわけ？それから少年が見たって言ってたあの幻の女の子のことは？
Something time...
まったくもう短絡的っていうか浅はかっていうか幼稚っていうか。
But your mom believed in it, right?
その話はやめて。もう過去のことは考えたくないの。昨日そう言ったじゃない。
But... Do you like things the way they are? You don't care if you never find out who your mom and dad were for the rest of your life? You would cover both of her ears in denial. I wanted to know about my past. I still hope to find it out. But I don't have any memory or any clue to go by, so... You have your memory, right? So that means that you have something that I don't have. You have a clue. And more than that, you were able to get information from Lemmy. So how come you still don't want to think about it? I thought you came to Limu because you wanted to find out the truth. Why'd you change your mind? Did something make you change? Why are you denying your past? Isn't that the same as denying yourself? With your own two eyes? Why don't you try to face the truth directly? You! I grabbed Yu's arms and pulled them away from her ears. Answer me! Why? Why do you want to give up when you were almost there? Why throw away everything that you have worked so hard for? I shouted at her. Because I couldn't believe what she was doing. It was something that she would be hard-pressed to find in her wildest dreams, and just as she was about to attain it, she had suddenly changed her mind. I was nowhere near reaching my dream, but Yu's was almost within her reach. So I felt terribly, terribly disappointed. Oh. I don't get it. What you have longed to know is right in front of you, and I was so jealous and so happy for you. Why?
怖くなったの。
Huh?
真実を知るのが怖くなったのよ。考えてみてよ。今まで正しいと信じてたものが全部嘘だって分かったのよ。全部作り物だったのよ。ねえ、こんなことってある？それって普通のことなの？私には信じられない。もう何もかもが信じられない。知らなかったの。真実がこんなにも苦しいものだったなんて。
You put her hand on her chest.
痛いの。心が痛いの。真実に近づくたび心がズタズタに傷ついていくの。私にはもう耐えられないんだよ。知りたくない。本当のことなんてしたくない。
At that sound and shaking, we looked up in surprise. The next instant, warning alarms started shrieking. All around me, the squeal of straining metal echoed from the structure. The shaking continued on and off. What? Could implosion already have started? It was 5:45 p.m. The estimated time of implosion was 4:30 p.m. May 7th, but given the 12-hour margin of error, I thought it could be an implosion. We burst out of the room. Bye. Oh, I hope things will be okay.